What's up, guys? Welcome into the Sleeper Packers podcast. My name is Clayton. Listen, this is a new adventure for me. I'm excited to get in here and talk ball with you guys on a weekly basis. And I want to give a shout out to Sleeper Packers. Obviously, bringing us on board was reached out to by the company there, and we kind of made a soft mention of it on our show over at PTA. And talking about that, hey, we would probably be partnering up with Sleeper Packers. And if you guys are not familiar, Sleeper is the fastest growing sports app for fantasy leagues, daily fantasy info, breaking news, user chats, the whole 9 yards, so much more going over there. Just visit sleeper.com. And what we're going to do with this show, guys, it's going to be very, very much it's going to be similar to the PTA podcast. If you guys tune in on a regular basis, I see some of the regular folks here in the chat already. We're going to be doing this in a different fashion. It's going to be kind of a weekly wrap-up show. Now, who knows? Maybe this will morph into something bigger along the lines. But right now, what we're going to be doing over here with Sleeper.com is we're going to be bringing you Packers news, and it's going to be branded under Sleeper Packers. So appreciate everybody tuning in. If you would, hit that like button, hit subscribe, click the bell icon, all that good stuff. I wanted to do this in a live fashion. Most of the Sleeper content creators, it's, uploading videos. There's nothing wrong with that. But you guys know I kind of like the live approach. I love getting folks involved here on the channel. United Bates first show. Let's go. Go Pack. Go. I'm excited about this, Bates. It's going to be a fun partnership, man. We're going to get in here and talk some Packers on a daily or on a weekly basis, rather. And I think this is a good change of pace from PTA to just dive in and give you guys what happened in the last 7 days, right? So I see we got Stephanie in here. We got Josh in the house. Good to see everybody. Appreciate y'all swinging through. Coach Lynn in here. What's up, Coach? Hopefully you're doing well, buddy. Let's got Kyle in here as well. What's up, Kyle? Appreciate you swinging through, pal. Let's get into it, man. Let's waste no time. Let's get into the weekly recap brought to you by Sleeper. So obviously, this is the week of June the 12th through June the 19th. We're recording this live, doing the show live on the 20th here. Let's just kind of get a real quick recap of what took place over the last 7 days. Now, most recently, we had the Green Bay Packers releasing their training camp schedule, right? It dropped. So camp is actually going to open on Wednesday, July 29th at Ray Nitschke Field, with veterans reporting July 28th, a day after the annual shareholders meeting, which will be on July 27th. All right, there's going to be 12 open to the public practices total, split into two groups of three straight days around the first day off. You're going to have family night being on Friday, August the 7th at Lambeau Field. And then the final open practice is a joint session with the Cardinals. Mike LaFleur and his brother Matt LaFleur are going to have a joint practice session there on August 26th, just 2 days before the preseason finale versus Arizona at Lambeau Field. I love that the joint practices are going to be in Green Bay. I think that's great news for the Green Bay Packers. So when you look at the training camp schedule as a whole here, this is what you're looking at, guys. It's going to kick off on July 29th. Like we said, I think veterans are going to report on the 28th. So open to the public is going to be the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st. That's a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So if you plan on going and attending training camp practice, that's when it's going to be 10:30 a.m. local time on each of those 3 days. There's going to be a day off away from the public. They may still practice, but the public won't be there on August the 1st. That's on a Saturday. And then Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, that's the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of August, 10:30 a.m. practice sessions. And then it's going to be closed to the public for the 5th and the 6th. And boom, just like that, on the 7th of August, it'll be Packers Family Night. Really, really excited about Family Night this year. That's going to kick off at 7:30 local time there. Friday night, there's nothing better. We're going to bring you live coverage of that on over on the PTA channel. So really, really fired up for Family Night. It's just kind of it's the kickoff to the fall for me, man. I know it's still technically summer and whatnot, but when Family Night gets here, it's fall. It's football season. It's on, right? So you're going to get a couple of days away from the public. And then on the 10th and 11th, you got back-to-back practices there, 10:30 a.m. And then it'll be a day away from the public. And then on Thursday, August the 13th, will be your very first preseason matchup. And, of course, that's going to be on the road against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's right. You heard it here. Matt LaFleur, the coach that replaced Mike McCarthy, Jordan Love, the quarterback that replaced Aaron Rodgers, are going to be going to Pittsburgh to face Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers. Now, we all know there's a good chance Jordan Love won't be on that field and Aaron Rodgers definitely won't be on that field for preseason. But how cool is it that you got Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers, who won a Super Bowl with the Green Bay Packers, are going to be leading the charge in Pittsburgh. You get to travel to their stadium, and they're going to host you in a preseason game. I just think that's absolutely awesome. So that'll be your first preseason game on Thursday, August the 13th. All right, now, Sunday, it looks like practice is going to be closed. If they do have practice, probably a travel day and whatnot on Friday. Saturday, they'll probably get back to work. Sunday will be the next open practice. So Sunday, August the 16th, then it's going to be closed on the 17th, back on the 18th, open to the public. All these are 10:30 a.m. practice times too. And you guys know all these times are subject to change. It seems like every year they do get shuffled around here, right? And then, of course, 18th and 19th is closed. And then you get your next preseason game on August the 21st. That's going to be at Denver. Okay, so at Denver on the road, that'll be an 8 p.m. kickoff. I imagine that's Central Time. That might be Eastern. We'll have to check on that. And then, of course, 2 days away from the public, back open practice on the 24th. That's on a Monday. It'll be closed to the public on the 25th, which is a Tuesday. And then the very last open practice to the public for the Green Bay Packers in training camp this year will be August the 26th. It will actually be the joint practice between the Packers and the Cardinals. So I don't know if they'll keep that open with it being a joint practice or not. It sounds like that's the plan right now, but going to be really, really cool to have those two teams have a joint practice. And it's closed on the 27th, probably won't even practice. And then the 28th will be a home game at Lambeau Field to wrap up the preseason. Of course, you've got the bye week immediately following the final week of the preseason. And like I said, the Cardinals will be in town. So that's going to be a fun matchup there. And here's the other thing, man. Is Josh Sweat going to get traded? Is Josh Sweat going to be a Green Bay Packer before you get to this game? That's a big question, right? So, again, that's your training camp schedule as it sits right now and the practices that are open to the public. Let's move on to topic number 2 that hit over the last, 7 to 10 days, and that was the Keisean Nixon contract standoff heats up. You go, whoa, contract standoff. What are you talking about? Jason Wilde of ESPN Milwaukee said he, quote, cannot say with any degree of high confidence, end of quote, Nixon plays 2026 without a new deal. Nixon confirmed to The Athletic he wants a raise. So not only was this Wilde somewhat reporting on it, and he was very, very professional and respectful to Nixon the way he reported on it. I want to say that. Just love Jason Wilde and how he handles his job. The Athletic confirms it. So this is a legit thing. Now, here's the good thing. Nixon didn't hold out. Nixon wasn't like, I'm holding out a mini camp and I want my money. He did not do that, right? So you got to tip your cap to him. However, it's common knowledge he wants something done before training camp. Now, what does that mean? He's in the last year of his 3-year, $18 million deal, carrying a $7.1 million cap hit as Green Bay's de facto cornerback 1. Now, we say de facto for a reason, right? CB1, hands down, Keisean Nixon was the best cornerback on the Packers roster, last year. There's no doubt about that. Right now, what does that mean exactly? His PFF grade was a 66.7. He struggled on 3rd and 4th downs the last 2 seasons. We've talked about those specific statistics when the money is on the table. This isn't to knock Keisean. It's not to be overly negative, but I also don't want to pump it up like Keisean Nixon is a legit number 1 corner. He's not. What he is a high number 2 corner. That's what he is. Now, if you're saying a high number 2 corner does not deserve to be paid more than $7 million, I think the salary cap, the allocations would probably suggest it disagrees with you. I do think he's a little bit underpaid. However, if he's not a cornerback 1, I can understand if the Packers don't want to pay him, right? It goes on to say Brandon Cisse, Benjamin St-Juste, and Kamal Hadden all loom as depth/replacement options if the contract negotiations or lack thereof does escalate. All right. So now, how do you feel about those guys? If we were to remove everything other than PFF, and you guys know if you follow my channel over at Packers Total Access, PFF isn't the end-all, be-all, right? That's not the case. It's another metric that we could cross-check with NFL Pro data, with the tape and whatnot. If we were to go strictly off PFF, Benjamin St-Juste was the 12th highest-graded corner in the entire National Football League last year. Only 378 snaps. However, pretty solid PFF grade there with the coverage grade of 77.8. He actually had the highest zone coverage grade, according to PFF, of all cornerbacks in the National Football League. You got Benjamin St-Juste on a really, really team-friendly deal out of free agency. So Benjamin St-Juste can make a case that, hey, no, don't pay Keisean. Not that he wouldn't want Key to get paid, but I can be cornerback 1. That's a case to be made there. Kamal Hadden, only 37 snaps, but he was looking like he belonged at a 67.6. Now, he had the gruesome injury. Looks like he's going to be ready to go for training camp. Time will tell. But his grade was a 67.6. You got to kind of throw it out because of the lack of snaps. Keisean Nixon will be your third highest graded cornerback here from last year. 66.7 was the grade. That was on 1,091 snaps. Again, guys, that's not a bad grade. Is it a cornerback one grade? Absolutely not, but it's not a bad grade. Carrington Valentine, 62.3 on 857 snaps. Carrington's not a bad football player. But again, if I had to choose between taking one of those two players, Keisean Nixon or Carrington Valentine, off the field and putting Benjamin St-Juste on the field, I want Benjamin St-Juste to be on the field until he proves, no, that was just a fluke last year, and that is not the player that he is, that he could play at that caliber on a consistent basis. That's just my personal opinion. All right. Next is Shamar Bartholomew, only a 58.7 on 34 snaps. And, of course, Trayvon Diggs is not on the roster now. That's another one to keep an eye on. He still hasn't signed anywhere. I wonder if he's going to sign with the Packers. I think it's possible. I would not be blown away. I would not be overly surprised if you end up with Trayvon Diggs on this roster and Josh Sweat if they end up going and trading for him. Now, what it's going to come down to with Josh Sweat is the Cardinals. Are they going to be willing to lower their asking price? The Packers released some information. I know Bill Huber reported on it. They seem to think that Josh Sweat was worth a fifth-round pick. Well, it came back. The Cardinals think he's worth a second-round pick. Do you meet in the middle at a third? Do you try to get a little bit more leverage and say, no, we're not going any higher than a fourth? Do you do a third that's conditional based upon snap count, accolades, and whatnot? That's the big question there. But back to Keisean in this contract. Again, when you look at the cap hit, guys, $3.9 million in 2024. Then it jumped to 6.8. Last year it jumped, or I'm sorry, in 2024 it was 3.9. Then last year it jumped to 6.8. And then this year it jumps to 7.1. Now notice the dead cap attached here. If you guys can see this number, it's very, very important that we cover this. So the dead cap is only $2.1 million. What does that mean? If they decide to trade Keisean or move on from him, release him or whatnot, they can free up $5 million right off the bat. So the question now becomes, is Keisean Nixon, is it worth keeping Keisean Nixon on the team, or would you rather have an extra $5 million in cap space? We're not hurting for cap space right now. We just signed Christian Watson to the big contract extension. You're about to sign Tucker Kraft to a contract extension. We're in really good shape when it comes to the salary cap as we sit here on June the 20th. However, $5 million, whether you use it or not, you can roll over to next year. My question to you guys is, and gals, is would you rather have Keisean or would you rather have $5 million in your pocket? Now, the other part of this, if Keisean is demanding, I'm cornerback one and I want $10 million, that's where we probably got a problem, right? That's where things are going to get a little bit tricky. And he does have a couple of escalator bonuses that we talk about here, right? Pro Bowl, $250,000, which he did earn that last year. Interceptions, if he gets 2 interceptions, $50,000. If he gets 3 picks, it's $100,000. If he gets 4, it's an extra $150,000. His per game active bonus is $29,411. It's actually going to equal the $500,000 there in that regard. So again, that's Keisean Nixon's contract. That's the quote-unquote dispute that's going on right now. Let me know in the comments how you feel about that, man. Do you want Key back, and at what cost would you like to have Keisean Nixon back? Me personally, I want him on the team. I think he's valuable. Now, I don't want to just slam dunk it. He's cornerback one. Absolutely not. You need to give Brandon Cisse all the opportunity in the world. Notice he wasn't on that list, right? Damani Jackson wasn't on that list either. I want just equal opportunity for everyone to have an opportunity to go out and win one of those starting cornerback roles. If it's Benjamin St-Juste and Carrington Valentine, they're the best two, I'm good with that. If it's Keisean Nixon and Brandon Cisse, they're the best two coming out of camp, I'm good with that. The reality, though, is that Brian Gutekunst did improve this room last year or this offseason. He did improve it. I mean, you're talking about Benjamin St-Juste and Brandon Cisse could arguably be cornerback 1 and 2 this year. That's possible. We got to wait and see in training camp and get them out there in preseason action. So you definitely raise the floor. And if anything, a rising tide raises all ships, right? This is going to motivate Keisean Nixon. This is going to motivate Carrington Valentine for those guys to go out there and try to put their best foot forward for sure. So that's the Keisean Nixon news. Topic number 3. Hate covering it. We're going to hit on it really, really briefly here, okay? And that's Josh Jacobs' legal situation overshadowing minicamp. Now, you guys know Josh Jacobs returned to minicamp practice. It's caught a lot of us by surprise. I truly thought, given the circumstances, that Josh Jacobs, or the team rather, would say, hey, stay away. Let's kind of get this thing sorted out. The fact that the team did bring him back into minicamp, I think it's a great sign. I think it's a sign of all the evidence points towards him being innocent, like he said from the beginning. However, as we've learned with the Ray Rice situation and multiple other accounts throughout the history of the National Football League, these things can change very, very quickly, right? So as it sits right now on June the 20th, it seems like we're in the clear. Now, that doesn't mean the league won't suspend him, whether it's late this year or they wait till next year and let the investigation kind of complete its process. Because I guarantee you, both the Packers and the NFL have private investigators behind the scenes kind of looking into this a little bit deeper. Okay. Now, obviously, if you're wondering what we're talking about, it was Jacobs was at all of the mandatory minicamp following his May arrest on 5 domestic abuse related charges, 1 felony strangulation count. No charges have been filed and the investigation remains open. So again, it's kind of by Wisconsin law. They had to make an arrest. They made an arrest. He was released the next day. He was not charged with anything up to this point. Now, Matt LaFleur publicly backed him. Quote, "It's been great to have him around. He shows up every day with the same attitude and same mentality," end of quote. So the coach is backing him up. The front office and organizational aspect of the Green Bay Packers, they're obviously backing him up. His teammates, you've seen them all during practice kind of gravitate toward him. His teammates are backing him up. This is looking good that Josh Jacobs is probably innocent. Again, you got to be very guarded in your words. These things can escalate really quickly. All it takes is one video or one witness or what have you to come out, and now things can turn around in the opposite direction, obviously. So Green Bay has offered no further clarity on a contingency plan, and Jacobs has no contract language preventing a release if the situation changes. So the reality is I think you could free up $10 million, roughly $10 or $11 million if you just cut Josh Jacobs outright. So if you get into a situation where this thing takes a turn for the worse, the Packers are protected. This is how Brian Gutekunst and Russ Ball do contracts. You've just seen it with Christian Watson. What does that mean? If you sign somebody to a 4-year deal, in most cases it's a 3-year deal. In Christian Watson's case, I think it's actually a 2-year extension. It's a 4-year extension. He's got 1 already on the contract, right? Set that to the side this year. 4-year extension. And after year 2 of the extension, so technically year 3 of the current contract, now that the extension's in place, you can move on from him because the majority, if not all, of the guaranteed money is gone, right? And the other thing about Christian Watson, we'll talk about here in a second, is the incentive aspect of his contract too. So what's the point here? If this thing takes a turn for the worse, the Packers can move on from Josh Jacobs, no harm, no foul. You just cut bait and you free up a ton of money that you can roll into the cap or use it for other contracts you want to use, right? So with all that being said, though, it looks like he's trending towards he's not going to be suspended. He's not going to miss any time there for sure. So, all right, moving along now. Let's see here. Story number 4 for our weekly wrap-up, weekly recap or what have you for Sleeper Packers. Mini camp wrap, okay? Gannon's defense, Tucker Kraft's timeline, and the trenches. So let's hit on a couple of these that we learned over the course of the recent mini camp, all right? So the defense reportedly won the day in competitive 2-minute drill during the final mini camp practice. Now listen, you see that and you get excited for the defense. Maybe you get a little worried about the offense. Whether it's college football or the pros, well, you know, I'm down here in Tennessee, right? The University of Tennessee Volunteers are just down the road from where I live, about an hour away. All through their spring practices, their spring camp, the defense dominated. And everyone's, what does that mean? The defense is good or the offense is bad, right? It's just kind of that yin and yang type thing here, that approach. So the fact that it seems like they're picking up this defense of Jonathan Gannon's and not missing a beat, I think that's a great sign, an absolutely great sign for the Packers defense. I really do. So them winning the day on the 2-minute drills and whatnot, you can kind of see guys settling in different roles. I know one of the things that was reported out of mandatory minicamp as well was Edgerrin Cooper lining up as an edge defender. Keep in mind, Micah Parsons probably out, I don't know, somewhere between 4 to 8 weeks would be my guess, something like that. And who knows, maybe he surprises, he comes back in week 2. I hope that's the case. If I had to put a stamp on it, I would say weeks 4 to 8 is kind of the return timeline for him. But Edgerrin Cooper on the edge in a 5-man front. Now, they had one lone stack backer, which is Zaire Franklin, playing the mic. What does that mean? To me, that's that penny look that they're talking about that Jonathan Gannon likes to run. So they're trying to find somebody that they could put in a hybrid role to rush the quarterback as that 5th man on the front. I love 5-man fronts because it takes away a lot of duo aspects of running games, and it kind of forces – it allows guys to play one gap essentially, right? And you're mugging the line of scrimmage. I think that's the proper way of playing. I used to love the old days, and I'm dating myself here. Gone are the days of the 5-2 defense, but man, the 5-2 defense back in the day, 5 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers. Whoo-wee, boy, you could do some damage. That was when you had a lot of triple option being ran in college, a lot of that run heavy type offense, right? And even in the pros, there were some 5-2 looks as well. Next on this list from camp, what we learned: Tucker Kraft said he expects to play week 1 with no limitations off his ACL tear, and confirmed extension talks are ongoing. Quote, "You guys will find out eventually," end of quote, is what Tucker Kraft said. Now, we had Easton Butler, a great follow on X. He always has all kinds of inside information when it comes to the Green Bay Packers. Local guy, awesome follow. Make sure you guys go look him up if you haven't already. He said the plan is to have Tucker Kraft, and this is what he heard through sources within the building. Tucker Kraft's contract, they want it done before the start of training camp, and the goal is to have Devontae Wyatt a contract extension before week 1 of the regular season. I love the way they prioritize these, right? You got Christian Watson's out of the way. I honestly think that they looked at Christian Watson and Tucker Kraft's contract extensions or potential contract extensions as 1A and 1B kind of interchangeable. Like, okay, let's go get both of those processes started, right? And if Christian signs his first, great, we'll still get Tucker's done, and vice versa. Christian signed the contract. I think it's a very team-friendly deal in terms of how it's structured. We'll talk about it in a second. Tucker Kraft, maybe a little, I don't want to say he's demanding more money, but maybe he's a little more deserving of more money recently. And I agree with that, man. We did a breakdown on PTA earlier this morning on Packers Total Access. Tucker Kraft is a top 5 tight end. You can make the case that he is one of, if not the best tight ends in the game. I mean, what he was doing, the trajectory, he was going to torch everybody in statistics at the tight end position last year before he tore his ACL. So again, pay that man his money. Give him the bag, right? That's going to get done. But it kind of feels like when you hear the report, Christian Watson obviously gets his deal. Tucker Kraft, before training camp starts, they're going to get that done. Devontae Wyatt, week 1, kind of shows you the pecking order. It shows you the prioritization or lack thereof when it comes to Devontae Wyatt and the Green Bay Packers. They're probably trying to get a sweetheart of a deal there, probably similar to how they negotiated with Quay Walker. Now, I hope the deal gets done at the right price. I think Devontae Wyatt's a good player. I don't think he's great. We got to say it on PTA. You'll overpay for great. You'll never overpay for good. That's just stupid. That's bad business, right? So as long as they don't overpay him, I'm good with the contract extension. But I think the Packers, you can kind of read the tea leaves here. They're probably looking at it that way. Like, hey, if we can get a decent team-friendly deal with Devontae Wyatt, let's sign him to that contract, right? If we can't, maybe you let him walk like you did Quay Walker, right? No pun intended. Now, you're probably going, Clay, whoa, Devontae Wyatt, what are we going to do without him? You picked up Javon Hargrave, who, by the way, graded out higher than Devontae Wyatt. He was better in every aspect other than pressure rate, essentially, right? And he stayed healthier. It would be him and Chris McClellan taking over next year. And Chris McClellan is projecting to be your nose tackle in a 34 or whatever hybrid front you want to run. He'll probably be your starting nose tackle. But in the nickel defenses, it's probably going to be Devontae Wyatt and Javon Hargrave with the rotation of Chris McClellan and some of these other guys, right? So with all that being said, you got yourself, if Chris McClellan pops this year and Devontae Wyatt plays hardball with the contract, let Devontae Wyatt walk. Chris McClellan steps into his role next year, he and Javon Hargrave together, and you take another swing or two in the draft or possibly free agency the following year. So that's kind of where we're at there with the contracts and specifically Tucker Kraft. I think that gets done before training camp opens up here on the 28th to 29th. Jagger Burton has been getting first-team reps at guard with Aaron Banks and Zach Tom out. So obviously with Zach Tom out, I think they kicked Anthony Belton, the right tackle, and then that allowed Jagger Burton to get some meaningful reps at guard. Now, keep in mind when there was times as well where they actually put Jagger Burton over at left guard. One thing about Jagger Burton, when he came to the Kentucky Wildcats in college, played, I think it was left guard his first year. It was either left guard or right guard his first year. Then it was the opposite side, left guard or right guard the next year. And then he played center his senior year. So there's also going to be a little bit of this. I think Sean Ryan's your starting center. I don't think there's going to be a camp battle. But the fact that Jagger Burton can get meaningful reps at guard where he played pretty well in college at, and he's got that versatility, that puts you in a position that who knows. Sean Ryan's contract is a 3-year deal that's really a 1-year deal. We talked about that, right? You got an out immediately following year 1. So if you move on from Sean Ryan after 1 year, let's say it doesn't work out the way we hoped or we planned. If that's the case, you move on from Sean Ryan and you might be able to plug and play either Jagger Burton or Jacob Monk, or who knows, maybe you go into free agency. Maybe you go try to find, like the Bears did last year in Drew Dalman. I know Drew Dalman retired this year, but maybe it's a bad example in that regard. But you go and sign somebody to fill that starting center role. I think that could be huge. And then also the other thing, Lucas Van Ness reportedly had a standout day during minicamp. He dominated. They tackle for a loss in the backfield, 2 pressures. This was all just in a matter of minutes at camp practice. Many people don't understand just how good Lucas Van Ness was last year. I put out a graphic, a statistic, if you will, from PFF. I put it out over on X. Do you guys know that when you take all the edge defenders in the NFC North, remove the minimum requirement and all that, every single edge defender that played in the NFC North last year, 2 of the top 3, Micah Parsons is number 1, Aiden Hutchins is number 2, Lucas Van Ness is number 3. We have 2 of the top 3 edge defenders, according to PFF, in the NFC North. Lucas Van Ness, grading out of 75, was the 3rd highest graded edge defender amongst all NFC North edge defenders last year. And you can say, well, maybe the edge position is weak in the NFC North. I think it could be. I don't know, right? You'd have to go watch the tape and do a full breakdown on every single edge defender in the North. I have not done that. But I think it's a sign that Lucas Van Ness, his run stop rate was right there with Rashawn Gary last year, which you guys know that was what Rashawn Gary done really, really well. He's a really good run defender at the edge position. So if that's not going to take a hit and you could get a little bit more pressure possibly with LVN if he takes a step forward, I think it's going to be huge. And it's awesome that he had a really good camp day there where he flashed. It was more than one day, to be honest with you. So good news from Lucas Van Ness coming out of camp. And then our last topic of the day here will be Christian Watson's $110.5 million deal. We're going to dissect it here, all right? So the filed terms show it's really a 4-year, $92 million base. The 110.5 includes 18+ million in incentives. So again, how these things are reported. Typically, the contract is not leaked out by the team. There's no reason for them. There's nothing positive that comes out of the team going, look at this contract we signed, right? It's typically the agency. When the agency drops the numbers, when they first drop, they're going to be inflated. They're going to kind of make it look like we got 4 years, $110 million, $111 million, whatever it is. And then when you truly break it down, you look at the actual guaranteed, not the practical guarantee. You look at the incentive-based bonuses within the deal. You can really kind of get cut to the chase and figure out exactly what the contracts truly look like. So $31 million signing bonus is the only, I repeat, the only fully guaranteed money. The cap hits escalate from $10.5 million in 26 to $29.1 million in 2029. Built in 2-year out via a $13 million roster bonus that's due in 2028. Classic, backloaded, team-friendly Packers structure. Let's talk about what all this means. If you guys can see this graphic, this came from Spot Track, however you say it, their website, phenomenal website to keep up with the salary cap across the NFL. They do a great job with the Packers here. So cap hit in 2026 for Christian Watson this year, $10.5 million. Keep in mind, he's under contract for 5 years now. The dead cap attaches to 35.8. That's that guaranteed money, that $31 million in guarantee that we talked about. You're getting that paid right off the bat, okay? Go to 2027, next year. His cap hit slightly raises $1 million to $11.5 million. Notice the dead cap. It's still sitting at $28.4 million, which means you cannot get out of that contract yet. In year 3, 2028, Christian Watson will turn 29 years old. Now, you'll notice $1.5 million in base salary, okay? You've got the proration of the $7.4 million signing bonus, okay? That's going to be allocated that year as well. And then you've got a roster bonus of $13 million. Now, the roster bonus triggers in 2028, the 3rd league day of 2028. So let's say something were to go completely south with Christian Watson. Let's say, God forbid this happen, and I don't think it will. I think Christian Watson, we did a breakdown on him earlier today on Packers Total Access as well. Man, oh man, he is still ascending. And if he stays healthy this year, mark my words, you're going to have 11 or 1,200 yards receiving. I believe that with everything in me, if he stays healthy. So let's say that doesn't happen, all right? And you look up in 2028, the cap hit is $24.5 million. The dead cap attached is $21 million. What does that mean? If you cut him outright before that 3rd day of the league year, when that $13 million signing or $13 million roster bonus triggers, you can free up roughly $3.5 million against your cap. Cut ties and you're out of the contract. He just turned 29, right? Now, should we do that? No. Let's say he's playing great. What you could then do is you'll probably try to do a little bit of maneuvering in terms of the roster bonus. You can convert that to signing bonus and then you can spread that out over the duration of the contract. So you got $13 million to play with there, guys. $13 million that if, let's say he's dominating and he's a top 10 wide receiver and he's going to be worth the $24.5 million that you got allocated in the cap for Christian Watson. If that is the case, then what you can do is convert the roster bonus to signing bonus, write him a check right then, and then spread the signing bonus out over 2029 and 2030, or potentially tack on a voidable year or two and spread it out over that as well. So if you took the $13 million, you cut it in half, you put $6.5 million on 2029's cap, $6.5 million on 2030's cap. You now take the $13 million and you can free up $13 million from the $24.5 million cap hit, which puts him right back to the cap hit number of 11.5 from the 2027 season. So again, the contract is now a 5-year deal. That's really a 2. It's a 2 plus 3 more club options, essentially. You just got to make sure that decision is made before the 3rd day of the league year. That's how the contract sits. Now, shout out to Rob Domofsky. He tweeted this out. He covers for the Packers on ESPN, NFL Nation. These are the escalators for each year from 2027 to 2030 based on previous season. And this is for Christian Watson and what he could potentially earn, okay? 75 plus receptions, $350,000. 85 catches, $750K. 95 plus receptions, $1.1 million. And if he hits 1,000 yards receiving, okay, $350,000 bonus. If he hits 1,100 yards of receiving yards, it's $750K, or 1,200 plus receiving yards, he actually gets $1.1 million. So you can see if he stays healthy and he dominates, he's going to get even more guaranteed money in the form of incentive bonuses. Now, another thing that's added, 9 receiving touchdowns, $350,000. 10 receiving touchdowns, $750,000. 12 plus receiving touchdowns, $1.1 million. So the max annual escalators for the following season base salary, $3.4 million. Now, there's a note here. There are also $250,000 escalators for 2027 through 2030. If he makes the Pro Bowl the previous season, plus a $250,000 incentive if he makes the Pro Bowl in 2030. If Watson maxed out receptions, yards, and touchdowns each season and made the Pro Bowl every year, it would total $15 million. So he has an additional $15 million that he can earn in incentives. I love how this contract is structured. And I love what Chris says here in the chat. I hope he maximizes all those bonuses. Amen to that, Chris. Because if he maximizes those bonuses, you've got a bona fide, true, field tilting, bracket covering. I wanted to use a Ric Flair quote there, right? Kiss stealing son of a gun, right? Like this dude, if he hits these incentives, you're going to be going, this guy's a top 5 receiver in the league. You'll gladly pay an additional $15 million from 2027 to 2030 in those incentives. Those incentives, guys, they kind of surprised me that they were as low as they were, to be honest with you. I mean, if basically what we're talking about is if he comes out next year and let's say he has 85 catches, that's $750K. Let's say he finishes with 1,000 yards, which he hasn't done yet, right? Now you're up to $1.1 million in incentives. And let's say he hits 10 receiving yards. Now you're up to $1.8, $1.9 million extra that he's going to make just for his on-the-field performance. So I think that's absolutely great news. I love the structure of the contract for the Packers. As Coach Lynn says here, Russ Ball was cooking. He was cooked. Someone has cooked here, and his name is Russ Ball. Last little note here from the weekly recap here, brought to you by Sleeper.com, Sleeper Fantasy. Tucker Kraft is now seen as the next extension priority, with one insider predicting he'll become the NFL's highest paid tight end. If there's a player on this team that I think is worthy of being the highest paid at his position, Tucker Kraft's that guy. He's a tone setter. The red zone offense completely disappeared when he got hurt last year. I don't think his injury wasn't like, man, this guy can't stay healthy, right? It was a sift block. He was sift blocking on a split flow look. And as he sift blocked over, Sean Ryan got blown off the ball at right guard into Tucker Kraft's knee. There was nothing Tucker could do. When you're sift blocking like that in a split flow look, a split zone look, you got to put your head down and you're going looking for work. You're going head hunting, right? You're not worried about, is the guard going to get blasted off the line? Just a really, really freak situation in play there that took him out. So again, I would not be surprised if he's the highest paid, but based on the structure of these other contracts and how the Packers like to do business, I also would say as soon as the contract comes out and it says Tucker Kraft's the highest paid tight end in the NFL, wait till we break down the contract on Packers Total Access, because when we do, what you're going to see there is you're probably going to see something very similar to Christian Watson's structure, where it's going to be, if it's a 4-year deal, it's really a 2-year deal. It's going to be front loaded to where you can get out of the contract in year 3. If the injury pops back up, if the ACL continues to give him a problem, you're going to cover your bases there. So that's kind of how I see all that in that regard here. Stephanie in the chat, Tuck definitely deserves it. He was a monster last year till the injury. He's a team leader, plays the game the right way. His teammates love him, all that. As Bates says here, pay that man his money. Amen to that. So, all right, guys, there you go. There's your weekly recap brought to you by Sleeper.com. This is the Sleeper Packers podcast. Really appreciate everybody tuning in and hanging out with us. I won't stay long-winded here. We'll go ahead and let y'all get back to your Saturday evening festivities. But again, make sure you sub to the channel. We're going to continue to cross-promote over at Packers Total Access, and we're about to crack 10,000 subs over there. We're going to get some of those over here to Sleeper as well. And I just want to give a thanks to Mason over at Sleeper and everybody who was in on making the offer to us to represent. Listen, I don't know how long it'll last. They may get tired of me after 2 weeks. We may look up in 10 years and we're still doing this thing, right? But I do want to say thank you on the front side for thinking of me. And again, like we always say, like to do live streams, because the chat, the listeners, the viewers that respond and keep kind of the ideas fresh here live streaming, to me, that's the secret sauce to what we do at PTA, and we're looking to carry that over to Sleeper Packers. So thank y'all so much for your time. Appreciate you hanging out with us. We love you. We appreciate you. We're going to keep this train rolling all the way to training camp. My name's Clayton. This is Sleeper Packers Podcast. Go Pack, go.
Here we go.
Bye, guys.